Hello, I'm Helen Moore, and today I wanted to share with you a slideshow which I called Working from Home with Kids. In the light of the current restrictions, we're all back to working at home and with our children not in school and not in daycare. It means we must work from home with children around us, and so I decided to create this slideshow for you. Here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to be talking about how you can talk to your child about the new restrictions, how you can set up a workspace, prepare for the day, how to minimize stress, how to ensure more positive behavior, fill up your child's cup, plan for interruptions, manage expectations, and flexibility. So talking to your child about the new restrictions. For young children between the ages of 0 and 7, it's a good idea to keep explanations very brief and simple, and to be conscious about using reassuring body language. So you want to be sure that you're smiling, that your facial expression is all very positive, and that your body language is also positive and open, shoulders back, that kind of thing. Your wording should be child focused. You want to talk about the experience that your child will be having, not what the whole country's experience will be. So talking specifically about your child and their day to day and how it will change. For 7 to 12-year-olds, you may need to help them to differentiate between reality and rumor. So you want to keep this chat very brief and factual. You want to encourage their curiosity, because I'm sure they're wondering why these restrictions are in place and what happened when they were allowed to attend school before. And we all told them that going to school was safe. We also want to explain to them that it's more about people moving about the country, bringing children to and from school, than it is about the school not being a safe place right now as a result of COVID. So we want to talk to them about that and to make sure that they have all the facts around that and that they understand why these restrictions are in place. It's a good idea to allocate enough time so that you can then together maybe do some research from reputable sources, maybe go on gov.ie, show them the different restrictions there, talk to them about the different announcements that were made by the Taoiseach or the Taoiseach, and maybe show them some clips to help them to really put everything in its rightful place and to kind of to be able to differentiate between rumor and fantasy and reality. Then, of course, it's also really important to have enough time to also discuss how your child is feeling about this and to really listen to their feelings and their approach, and to just avoid pushing our own beliefs on the topic. So a lot of the time, I've spoken to plenty of parents who've said that they're quite upset about all of this, but their children are not. And there's no reason to, tell them that they should be more upset about something than they are, or if they're upset, to tell them that it's okay and to kind of brush over it. It's a good idea just to take time to really listen to what it is they have to say, and on another time, if you want to share your experience with them, do, but trying to keep this talking to your child about these new restrictions as a time when you're really child focused. So with the older children, really listening to them and their feelings and discussing it with them, of course with the younger children also listening, with younger children, making sure that the conversation is focused around the way their individual lives will change. So about how their day will be different, so they know exactly what to expect and what's coming up, and so they don't have to kind of fill in the blanks themselves. You're also going to want to talk to your children about the importance of working from home. So a good way to explain this and to help children to really understand what it means whenever you're asking them to allow you to focus on your work with as few interruptions as possible, for them to understand your reality and to help them to have respect for that. It's a good idea to talk to them about times from their own lives when they maintained good focus and succeeded, compared to times whenever they were distracted and maybe didn't succeed quite as easily, or maybe didn't succeed at all. Then after you've had this quite kind of frank discussion about times in their own lives, you can relate that back to, this is why I'm going to need time to be able to focus on my work. And from that place, it'll be easier for them to understand it. Then you can also write a list of all the needs of everyone in the home. Also, just to point out, we want to do this talk at a different time to when we explain the restrictions. So give your children a break in between. We don't want this to turn into one long lecture about how our lives are going to change right now, because that can feel very doom and gloom. So maybe if you spend 20 minutes talking to your children about the restrictions, earlier on in the day, and then later that evening talking about how it's going to change now starting from Monday, what you're going to be how you're going to need to be able to work without interruption as much as possible and why that is, and also making this list of the needs of everyone in the home and just reassuring your children that in this plan you're also going to be including playtime, free time, so the real needs of everybody, not just making sure everybody gets fed and work done and schoolwork done, but also that our emotional needs and our social needs are all being met. So if that's, arranging some Zoom calls for children with their friends, things like that throughout the day, that all those things are going to be worked into the schedule. Now, probably back in March, you did set up a designated workplace at home, but I still want to talk to you today about its importance and how it can really help within the family. So the good thing about having a designated workplace in your house is that it really is a visual reminder for the whole household. So whenever you would get up in the morning and go out to work, you probably felt it. You probably know exactly what I'm talking about. And whenever you walk into your office or your workspace, you're at work, and so your entire attitude and energy and everything will change to fit that environment. Whenever we're trying to work from home, we're still in the home environment, which is where we relax, where we spend time playing with our children, where we maybe watch a film with our partner. This is where we eat and we rest and we recuperate, not usually where we work. And so it's good to have that distinction between the place where we complete our work hours and the place where we have our home hours, even if it is still within the one building. And it just helps to increase productivity. And it's also, like I said, that visual reminder to the entire household. So whenever your children see you sitting at your desk or wherever your workplace may be, it could be the kitchen table in some houses. But when your children see you go to your computer or take out your work things, that they have a clear distinction between this is mommy or daddy's work time. It's also a really good idea to do the same for our children. So you could set up a corner of a playroom or a living room, really any space within the home except for the bedroom. We want to keep, like I discussed there, about how our attitudes and behaviors change depending on where we are. The same thing happens for us whenever we go into our bedroom. So our bedroom has all these associations with sleep, and it's where we rest. So we don't want our work to go into the place where we rest, okay? Because that wouldn't be good for our overall well-being. And the same for our children. So where possible, obviously in some homes this won't be possible, but where possible, try and keep this workspace out of the bedroom. And set up a little table or setup that looks just like what mommy and daddy have. So for your child, they can very clearly differentiate between those things, that they can say, oh, this is my workspace. And this workspace would be dedicated for schoolwork, for arts and crafts, or for sensory play, but separate from their play area, so not regular play. And it's a good idea to really practice some discipline around using this area for its designated purpose only. This then will encourage a respect for your workplace too. And it makes it very easy for you to model the respect that you wish for the children to have for your workspace. So if you will approach your child's workspace with that level of respect, that makes it so much easier for your children to know how they should behave whenever they are in your workspace. We want to have some daily preparation. Okay, so you want to, every morning, get up, get ready for work or for school every morning, just as you would if you were to leave the house. You want to try and maintain as much as possible your regular sleep patterns and plan your work hours interspersed with planned activities with your children. So whenever we do this, it really helps to create more realistic expectations of the working day, and it just ensures that everyone's needs will be met. It's also a really good idea to meal plan. If you create a weekly meal plan for all your meals and snacks, then this task isn't going to occupy your thoughts daily. And it's also really nice, and it worked very well for us in our house with my three children, is to still pack the children's school lunch boxes. So you're creating a little snack basket for your children. This is their snacks for the day. It means they're not constantly coming to you asking for more snacks. They have access to this snack basket, and when it's gone, it's gone. So they get to eat those snacks throughout the day. And then we need to also be referring to the list of needs that we made really daily. Okay, so you want to check back over the list that you made with your children at the very start each day, just to ensure that your plan is accounting for everyone on that day. Okay, you want to discuss these actions as well regularly. So it's good to kind of sportscast what it is you're doing, because a lot of the time, whenever we're just speaking out loud about what it is we're doing, it helps our children to know that they are being considered. And that's very reassuring for children. So sometimes even just knowing that they are being considered, that's what's reassuring. So they don't need to even necessarily know that, you know, any treats are coming up or any rewards are coming up, or they don't have to do something because, you know, X equals, you know, whatever. It's because they know they're being thought of and considered. That can be enough just to help them to kind of feel better about it. And of course, the other side of this is that needs and wants will change with time. So it's a good idea to just reevaluate your list as needed over the following weeks. And then we want to minimize stress. So again, you're talking about picking your battles. So maybe during lockdown, you're going to maybe relax around your children's snacking habits or their screen time, or whatever you feel will just make your day a little bit easier to not be having that argument constantly. But whenever you do so, it's really important that you also discuss this with your partner if you have one. So if you're going to relax and allow your children to graze all day, then it's important that your partner is aware of this, so they're not trying to restrict your children's snacking and keep them to scheduled meal times, so that there's not this conflict between the parents then, which of course has a knock-on negative effect on the children. It's also a good idea to talk about the way that you may have relaxed around certain rules during this time with your children, so that you can get their opinion on it, so that they can be aware that there's a time limit on it, that this is just during this specific time that you're relaxing in this area and it's not an indefinite change. And also just to prepare them so that, you know, it kind of means that they know what to expect from you, and it's not seen as an inconsistency in the rules, but rather something that was planned and well thought out by you as a leader in the home. It's a good idea to discuss different scenarios and expected behaviors. So even to the extent of having a little trial run of the game plan. So talking to your children about exactly how the day is going to go, what's going to happen if you're on a call, for example. So whenever the phone rings or it's time for the Zoom call to start, what is the expected behavior from your children? What steps must they go through? You know, it's time for you then to go to your workspace, or it's time for you to go and to watch some TV, or it's time for you to have some snack with your older brother, or whatever is the plan for the children, and to just role play it, to run through it with them, and to see how it works. And usually children enjoy this and it's fun, so it's just a nice way of preparing them. The truth is, with time and consistency and this sort of overt direction, children will then learn what's expected and will happily stay within their routines and boundaries. So it all works out very easily, but it will take some time. It'll take time and consistency, and of course, very, very clear direction. So give yourself a week or a week and a half to allow all this to settle and to find your feet again in this new stage of lockdown and distance learning and working from home. So we want to ensure more positive behavior, okay? And this is fairly lengthy, so I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this slide. These are the building blocks of building our children's self-esteem, which is the groundwork for positive behavior. And they're in no particular order. I just put them down here as topics to talk about. So I will go through them in the order they are on the screen, but that is not order of importance. So recognition is really important for all people everywhere, including our children. It's really important that their behavior is recognized. This means never ignoring behavior, even bad behavior. So a lot of the time we think that we need to ignore naughty behavior so as not to give it our time and attention. And while not giving it a lot of time and attention is a good idea, it's still important to recognize it, because we need our children to know that they are having an impact on the world, and to realize that they have, you know, that whenever they make a noise, whenever they do something, that it is having this knock-on effect on other people, and that's a very important learning for children. So we want to be sure that we are recognizing our children and all their behavior, and you know, verbalizing it, talking out loud about it. Another one is gratitude, making sure that we're showing our children gratitude for their good behavior. So whenever we see positive behavior in our children, this means saying a simple thank you. It doesn't have to mean rewards, and no sort of reward systems or reward charts or anything like that. It's just a simple act of gratitude. Besides anything else, we then model gratitude for our children too. So we want to be able to show gratitude to our children just by saying thank you. So when they behave well, we recognize the good behavior. We tell them what we saw. For example, I saw that you put your dishes in the sink today. Thank you. Because it means that we have seen what they did, we recognized it, even if we appear to be distracted or we were doing our work or we weren't, as far as they were concerned, we weren't really looking at them at the time. Being able to speak about it and recognize it helps the child to feel seen and heard. It's not enough to just always be telling our children, I love you, I love you. We need to be able to tell them why. We need to show them that we recognize them and we see them. They're seen and heard and they're important. So recognizing their behavior really does this for them. And saying thank you. Also, purpose. Children and all people need to feel a sense of purpose in their day. It's really important and it greatly encourages positive behavior. So if you find your children are maybe behaving as though they're a bit entitled or ungrateful, or maybe just like unmotivated and unenthusiastic, and that they don't really care about things, it could be that they are not feeling this sense of purpose. You see, the thing about these building blocks of good behavior that we have here is a lot of the time before COVID or any lockdowns, these needs were being met by our entire community, because it takes a village to raise a child. So our children are going out to school and some of these building blocks were being met. Or they were playing at neighbours' houses and some of these building blocks were being met. And whenever our children now must be at home, we need to be sure that we're meeting all these ourselves. So we want to make sure that our children are feeling a sense of purpose within their home. When you can put yourself into their shoes and just imagine what it means to wake up in their bed in the morning, and what of your day lies ahead of you. What's important about it? What is your purpose for the day? If we don't feel purposeful, it can really be draining and bring down a lot of our self-esteem and make us not feel important or good about ourselves. So we want to really help our children's self-esteem and making sure that they feel purposeful. So their purpose in the day could be things like achieving certain tasks for school, for their schoolwork, maybe if they're on using Seesaw or whatever system the school decides to use, making sure that they've achieved their schoolwork by the end of the day can be a certain part of their purpose. Another one is allocating age appropriate chores around the house, things that they must get done, and that if they don't do it, are not done. It's very important that whatever chore you give your child, if they have not completed it, that you don't do it for them, because they need to see the impact of it not being done compared to when it is done, in order for it to really have the benefit of showing them that they have real purpose and real impact, and that they truly are contributing to the running of the home, which is very, very important for self-esteem. So we want to ensure recognition, gratitude, and a sense of purpose. Understanding. We all make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. And blaming and shaming and guilting our children whenever they make a mistake or they misbehave does nothing for encouraging positive behavior. Makes children feel bad. And whenever we feel bad, we're actually less likely to behave positively than we would if we felt good about ourselves. So if your child is surrounded by negativity, if you find that you are telling your child no a lot more often than you're saying yes, if you find that you correct behavior far more than you direct behavior, then it's time to really reconsider this. Okay, we need to be understanding of the fact that our children are not little adults, but our children, and are learning and growing. And there's a lot that we can learn in terms of child development, ages and stages, what we can truly expect of our children, and just knowing our children individually, of what it is realistic for us to expect of them, to be understanding when they make mistakes, when they do wrong, to be a listening ear, and to always approach it, even if you don't understand yet, but to approach it from a place of seeking understanding, of wanting to understand, and just being curious and asking questions. And that leads us right into communication, because we want to have open communication with our children. So open communication, whether that is around direction, how we direct our children's behavior, how we correct our children's behavior, how we encourage our children to open up to us and talk to us about things, how, all those heart to hearts, all the teaching moments, even how we enjoy ourselves together, how we talk about our needs and our feelings and our wants and our desires and who we are as people and who they are as people. It all needs to be open communication, and no one should ever feel afraid to speak about anything within the home. So it's very important that that communication is kept open, and that everything is always met from a place of either understanding or curiosity and a want to understand. And the last one is discipline. And again, by discipline, I mean teaching. So teaching behaviors, directing behavior, correcting behavior. So discipline is really important in terms of ensuring more positive behavior from our children. It's not punishments. It's not reward charts. I actually never encourage either. I do encourage consequences whenever the word for consequences is being used accurately. Consequence and punishment are two very different things, but it is a blurred line, and a lot of people can be confused as to what the difference is. So by my definition, an in-tune parenting definition, when I say consequences, I mean the natural consequence of the behavior. So for example, like I mentioned earlier with doing little jobs around the house, if that job does not get completed, it is left undone. And the child then is forced to experience a world where that job is undone. Whether that means mommy and daddy are feeling more frustrated and annoyed because that was undone, okay? Or because they never paired the socks, so now everybody's going around with odd socks on, or whatever their job was, or there's dirty dishes piling up in the sink because they didn't empty the dishwasher. And everyone is feeling the effects of this and communicating the effects of it. So again, talking about how they feel without blame or shame, but just that difficulty, talking about the difficulty, talking about, oh, the dishwasher hasn't been emptied, so now the dishes are in the sink and it's dirty and it's piling up, and I don't like seeing the kitchen looking so cluttered and messy, or whatever the case may be. Helping the child to understand the world from other people's perspectives is what is really going to encourage much more positive behavior from them. Another example of a natural consequence is the one that I always use, which is the child doesn't want to put on their coat when they go outside. They have to be able to experience feeling cold in order to know what that means. So that's another form of that communication. Now, there are extreme cases whenever it will be important to have a parent-led consequence, but like I said, those are extreme cases. In most healthy homes where there is healthy communication, where all these other building blocks are being met, there would never be a need for punishment or for parent-led consequences. And a lot of the time it can simply be discussing these things with our children and helping them to understand. And a child who feels a sense of purpose and is aware of the impact that they have on the home and how they are contributing to the home will also have an internal desire to do good and to have a positive impact, because that's what feels good for them as well. So it's an intrinsic desire. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by having constant interruptions whenever you're trying to work, it's time to fill your child's cup. So it's a fact. Children need time and attention from a trusted adult. They need that. They can't survive with us just passing them snacks while we're distracted looking elsewhere. They can't survive like that. They need our focused attention in order for them to truly thrive. So it's important that during this unusual time where we can't have a babysitter or a childcare worker or school teachers fill that gap for us during our working day, that instead we are interspersing into our daily work activities, set activities with our children. And this means that our children are getting focused attention from us at the same time as we're getting our daily work activities done. So the reason I say set activities as opposed to free play is because there needs to be clear and distinct time limit to these activities, because it's important for our children to understand the boundaries on our time again, going back to the beginning slide there, where we're talking about the importance of us having focused attention on our work too, and everyone's needs within the home being equally met. So it's not that there's an imbalance where everything is about making sure all the children's needs are met, and then the parents are left flailing, overworked, exhausted, and unable to maintain this, what we've been asked to do by the government right now. So we need to be sure that our needs are also being met so that we can meet our children's needs in this way. And I feel like this is a very good solution and it's very doable for most families. Maybe you'll find it's not doable for you, but I would really encourage you to give it a try and to see how it works for you. So 5-minute breaks. So we're going to try and cap these little set activities to 5 minutes at a time throughout the day. Okay, so those 5-minute breaks that previously would have been maybe a casual chat with a colleague or a cup of tea whenever you're in your work, can now just be consciously spent with our children instead. So here's an example of some activities that might take 5 minutes like that. Sitting down and reading a storybook, one storybook. When that storybook is over, you need to return to your work, and making sure that that distinction is there and children understand this ahead of time. Maybe watching one episode of a favorite cartoon. For the younger children, a lot of the time these are just 5 or 10 minute cartoons. Of course, as they get older, they can be 20 minutes or longer. But you can arrange your day around that to allow for that. Maybe going out and taking a 5-minute walk around the neighborhood, a craft activity, doing a jigsaw together, or even just snack time together can also count towards this, where you just sit at the table having a snack. Means it's an opportunity for you to look at your children, to be there and to give them your undivided attention. So even if it's over snack time, it still counts. And so you want to also just be planning for interruptions so that you're not getting frustrated and annoyed whenever those interruptions do occur, because they will, because you are at home and your children are at home. So you want to just add extra time to each project to allow for these interruptions. And maybe have a set schedule for things like video calls, one that fits in around your children's routine. So just talking to work maybe about how you can set this up. So even if you could arrange that video calls always happened every day between 11 and 1 because you knew that that's when your baby was going to take a nap, or that it somehow corresponded with your older children's quiet time, or when they would be doing their maths work or their different school work, that you knew you have that set time when they would be otherwise occupied, and make sure that that's a set up part of your schedule every day. We need to manage work expectations. So we want to talk with your employer about the limitations of working from home. This will be easier when you have a clear timeline. You know what your work hours are and what hours are needed to meet your children's needs. So going back to the beginning and your lists and planning everything out and making your schedules will make this discussion so much easier for you, because you can be far more realistic then in terms of work-life balance. You'll be able to actually clue in your employer on what's achievable for you individually, because for everyone it will be different. Everybody has different home circumstances. So how you can make working from home work for you is going to be different for everyone. Discuss any real priorities within your work. So what things really must be met by you every single working day, so you can be sure that you are meeting at least those priorities. Obviously you want to be getting as much done as possible, but at least if you can be sure of, right, I definitely have to get that ticked off every single day, you can prioritize that within your own schedule then too. So just having an open conversation. So you're just trying to keep regular open communication with your employer, also with your colleagues, because besides helping you know what the priorities are, being able to talk to your employer about your limitations, it also will just reduce your stress, and it'll also keep all expectations realistic, and it can help you to maintain motivation and enthusiasm. Equally, we need to manage our home expectations. So this again can be done just by tracking your productivity over the first few days and just adjust your schedule then as necessary. So you maybe will be over ambitious or maybe under ambitious and whenever you first make your schedule. So as you see how, what you realistically are getting done in the day, you can just adjust your schedule then. Also having regular family meetings. Now I recommend these before the start of every day, because if you try and have a family meeting at nighttime at bedtime, for example, then that can maybe interrupt your sleep, and having good sleep patterns at this time is especially important to reduce stress. So you want to maybe have them in the morning, maybe when you're having a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or whatever way you start your day, and discuss the plan for the day ahead. And this can be a time when you sit down with your family. You can very clearly state the expected behaviors for younger children and just talk about the schedule for that day, whatever it may be. How much or little you can work from home is very dependent on individual circumstances. So try not to concern yourself with how much Sally next door is achieving. Okay, so we're all going to be different. It'll depend on how many children we have, the ages of our children, if we have children at all. It'll depend on if our partner is also trying to work from home, or if they maybe are an essential worker or working outside the home. All these things will greatly impact the amount of time that you have to dedicate to your work at home. And so you need to keep your expectations realistic there, and don't be trying to keep up with anybody else. If you're an ambitious kind of person and competitive kind of person, you can always be in competition with the you of yesterday. So whatever you got done yesterday, perhaps you want to try and achieve a little bit more today, but don't be concerned about what Sally next door is doing. And another point to note is that babies and toddlers do need constant supervision. So while all the previous slides do still apply here, you need to just bear in mind that young children are going to be in your workspace and they will be making noise. So not as opposed really to older children who could perhaps be in a different room doing their work or playing while you're getting some work done. If you've got babies or young children in your home, then you need to be accepting of the fact that they are going to be there. So you just need to just relax in the knowledge and be thankful. Look, most people working from home at the moment will have a very similar setup. They'll either be sharing the experience with you, or they'll at least be understanding of your situation. And just, even if at the beginning of a call, if you're going to do a Zoom call with someone, letting them know that your children are going to be there in the background. I probably should have done that today because I know my children are making noise in the background today while I'm recording this. And just it helps people to understand what the circumstances are for everybody and to be more understanding. And flexibility, just making the most of the flexibility. The great thing about working from home is that it doesn't have to be 9 to 5. So if you really need to fit in some extra quiet work time, if that's really absolutely necessary for you, and if you're not too exhausted at the end of the day, you could of course get some things done whenever your children go to bed at night. Or if you get delayed starting in the morning, you know that there's no real need to stress because you can just continue a little bit past 5 in the evening. One of the best things and one of the main points for me, I suppose, one of the main benefits and what I feel is really positive is that we get to lead by example. So your children now are witnessing your work ethic and your drive as an adult daily. Every single day, they get to see and absorb and learn from the way you conduct your work, your enthusiasm, your motivation, your whole work ethic. They're learning from that in a way that they just couldn't possibly have done before, because before they were only witnessing your attitude before work, maybe when you were groggy and tired in the morning and trying to get them out to school, or after a long and tiring day. So now they really get to see you at your best. And this is a real learning opportunity for children and a way that this generation is going to benefit that others didn't. So they really get to see and learn from your approach to work and how you're going to make this work for you. So being mindful of that, and also being mindful, if you won't for yourself, but also for your children, of reducing stress for their benefit, because we don't want to be a model of stress for our children. So being sure that you're still doing all the things that you can to ensure that you're relaxed and feeling good means that your children will be able to take that approach to their work life too. They will learn from your example. Other benefits are you get to eat together as a family and you get to play together as a family. So here's just a note. Plan well, stay positive, take time out to fill your child's cup, and you can make it work for you. So I'm Helen Schwierst-Moore. If you have any questions or comments, I would love to hear from you. Please just pop them below this video. I will respond to each and every one of you. And thank you so much for giving me your time today.